Hey folks, welcome to Corvette Talk with Scags. Today I'm going to talk about what you would look for if you were interested in making an investment in a high-end Corvette third generation. I'm just going to use my car as an example here. I have 14 items on this list. It doesn't necessarily mean that item number 14 is any less important than item number 1. It's just that I have 14 things here. This might take some time, so I'm going to jump right into it. I don't want to destroy you guys with a 20-minute video. So first on my list here is panel gaps. What I mean by panel gaps is how well do the panels line up. These early Corvettes had all kinds of panels. The hood had to line up with the Astro ventilation door. The Astro ventilation door had to line up with the windshield wiper door. The fender had to line up with the vent. Good heavens, the front end had to line up with the bumper. The rear end had to line up with two bumpers. The doors had to line up with the fenders. The T-tops had to line up with the rear part of the car. So there's all kinds of stuff to line up. I will tell you that Chevrolet wasn't exactly making one a day of these. They were churning them out. Everyone's trying to make money. Chevrolet was no different. So it's a very distinct possibility that there's going to be a couple of panels that don't line up. That's no big deal. Don't stress over it. But if you're going to buy a high-end Corvette C3, and by high-end, let's talk about maybe 50,000 and above. You don't want all the panels to be misaligned. It doesn't necessarily mean the car was in an accident. It could very well mean the car was restored, and when it was put back together, it wasn't necessarily put back together right. Even the headlight doors. I've noticed that in cars that I know that have been monkeyed around with a little, the headlight doors have a tendency to sit a little low. So panel gaps, that's number one. Number two, tires and wheels. Today, aftermarket wheels and tires are very popular. It seems like every car's got them. They're awesome, but if you're spending $50,000, $60,000 on a C3 Corvette, you're getting an L88 or an LS6 or an LT1, whatever, you're going to want the correct wheels. And wheels, just like other components in a Corvette, like alternators and radiators and stuff like that, they have a date code. If you're buying an expensive Corvette, you might want to pop off the trim ring and look for the date code on there. Tires, same thing. If your car came with Redline radial tires, you're going to want to make sure it's got Redline radial tires on it. If it came with Blackwall tires, make sure it's got Blackwall tires on it. You're spending the money, make sure it's correct. Number three is trim. These cars have tons of trim. The front alone has got 20 pieces of trim. There's this trim piece here. There's this trim piece here. There's this grille. There's the light. There's the bumper. Underneath, there's another 2 pieces of trim. Inside, there's enough trim to make your head spin. It's like there's trim on top of trim. Listen to me. If you're spending a lot of money on a Corvette, a C3 Corvette, make sure all the trim is there. Not only is it expensive to replace, it's also a pain in the ass. It's got to line up, just like I mentioned with the panel gaps. The trim has got to line up as well. Any number of things could happen to trim. Say, for instance, you pull up, you're checking out a 1969 L88 convertible, you're totally stoked about it. You're talking to the dude, you're like, hey, you know, listen, sir, I love your car, I'm interested in it, but I've noticed there's a couple of missing pieces of trim. Can you tell me about that? Hey, Scags, I took this thing apart a couple of years ago, and I gotta be honest with you, when I put it back together, I lost a couple of pieces of trim. Hey, you know what? Walk away from that car. There's no reason to spend that kind of money and have to do anything as far as trim is concerned. Numbers. Let's talk about numbers. It seems like everyone that's involved in the Corvette hobby has got a definition of numbers matching. I know I mentioned this in some of my other videos. If you don't remember, then watch my other videos. If you're spending that much money on a Corvette, make sure it's the original motor. Make sure it's the original transmission. Make sure it's the original rear end. Make sure the paint is correct. What's the sense of spending $75,000 on a C3 Corvette? You check the trim tag and the car was supposed to be blue and now it's black. Man, walk away from that thing. Options. More is better than little, a little amount. So with options, you want a lot of them if you're spending the money. Air conditioning was a $600 option back in 1969. That's astronomically expensive. You're talking about a car that was $4,500 when it was new. Automatic transmission was an option. Power steering, power brakes. Corvettes nowadays come loaded with that stuff. You don't need to worry about it. Even seat belts were optional back in 1970. They didn't become standard until 1972. So if you're spending a lot of money on a Corvette, get one with a lot of options. Originality. Me, personally, I like my Corvettes to be original. Some people out there watching these videos, they might want a restored one. That's fine too. Whatever floats your boat. But here's the deal. If it was restored, By whom was it restored? Do you have receipts for the restoration? Do you have pictures of the restoration? Nowadays, if you don't accompany a restoration with a 3-ring binder of information, you know, I would walk away. Decals, wow, decals. I know in one of my other videos, I showed the underhood decals on the air cleaner, on the air conditioning compressor. A couple of years ago, I was at a Corvette show. There was a guy talking to me about the importance of the decals and stickers on the inside of the door there, about jacking up the car and where the spare tire is located. I thought it was ridiculous, but apparently that adds value to a car. Listen, if you're spending the money, get your money's worth. Functionality. We mentioned options. Well, do they work? If they don't work, what's the point of having them? You're just going to have to spend the money to get them to work anyway. Documents. If you're spending that kind of money, make sure there's some documents. Receipts. Owner's manuals, tank sheets that go on top of the gas tank. Old Corvettes came with something called a Protecto plate. A Protecto plate was a little metal credit card thing. It had the original owner's information on it. It makes a Corvette more valuable. Make sure you get that stuff. Owner history. Do you want to buy a Corvette for $75,000 that had 20 owners, or do you want to buy a Corvette for $75,000 that had 2 owners? Let me give you some advice. Go with the one with less owners. Colors. Colors are important. How the hell many Corvettes are going to be red with a black interior? Boring. There's any number of documentations, books, YouTube videos that you could watch that'll tell you, hey, in 1970, only 200 came in Laguna Gray. In 1968, only 400 came in Sunfire Yellow. If you're spending 75 grand, 80 grand, 60 grand, whatever, get a rare color. Unless, of course, red floats your boat, which I'm good with, too. Miles, well, lower miles are better, okay? It's as easy as that. Overall condition, guys, gals, I have to tell you, make sure you go see your Corvette that you're potentially purchasing. Nothing's worse than when the car carrier pulls up, you drop everything, you push your wife out of the way, you knock your kids out of the way, you kick the dog out of the way, you run out to the car carrier, and what's sitting on the car carrier? A turd. You don't want that. Go see the car, pay the airfare, pay the bus, pay the freaking Uber driver, do whatever you have to do. Get out there, see your car, sit in it, drive it, make sure everything works. Folks, I can't tell you how important that is. The final one I have on this list is automatic or 4-speed. Go with the 4-speed. 4-speed is always going to be more valuable. Folks, I hope I kept that brief enough. These are just things that are important to me if I was spending that kind of money. To you, they might not be important. Hopefully my videos educate you. Hopefully they're fun. Hopefully they don't suck. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your plastic fantastic. I will tell you right now that if you're watching this video and you don't have a Corvette, go get one. Write the check. There's plenty of them out there for dirt cheap. Got 5 grand, want a Corvette? You know what? Go find one, buy it, drive the tires off it, enjoy it. Happy motoring. Enjoy your plastic fantastic. Thank you so much for watching and have a great weekend.